Once upon a time, there lived a young woman named Wanja. From her early teenage days, Wanja only had one desire: to get married to a rich man and live a life of luxury. Suitors of poor backgrounds who sought her hand in marriage were met with cold rejections, as Wanja only wanted a life of wealth and comfort. She would say this to them: "No, I can't marry you. You are poor. In fact, you're very, very poor, and I can't join you in your suffering. Go and work hard, and if you become wealthy, you'll find me here." Wanja's attitude to these suitors will always be offensive, and the suitors will leave feeling useless and not good enough to get pretty maidens to marry like Wanja. So, after many years of waiting, Wanja's dream finally came true. As she was walking around in the village, a wealthy young man named Githinji spotted and approached her, and the two became friends. After weeks of knowing each other, the two fell in love, and Githinji married Wanja, knowing that her intentions were pure. Githinji was a loving and caring husband, and he would always buy the best of the best garments and clothes for Wanja. He was very attentive and would care for her and cater to all her needs. Even at the time when Wanja had given birth to their baby girl, he would do all the house chores and all the cooking to ensure that Wanja and the baby were well taken care of. As their little girl Nduta grew up, Githinji would find time in his busy schedule to spend time and play with her. In short, Githinji was the perfect definition of a caring and loving husband. As time went on, misfortune struck Wanja's husband Githinji, and he fell very ill. They called every medicine man and healer that was well known in the village to treat him, but instead of his condition becoming better, it worsened. All the riches and wealth that Githinji owned were all used to pay for the medical treatments, leaving their once glorious life hanging by a thread. All the farmlands they owned were sold to get him better treatment, but his condition still did not improve. Fearing to return to poverty and experience suffering, Wanja made a fateful decision. She left her husband and her child and fled to a distant village. She did not care about her husband Githinji, who had loved her unconditionally, and she did not care about what would happen to her little daughter, Nduta. All she wanted was to escape poverty and escape suffering. So, in this new village, Wanja started afresh, and she met another rich man and got married to him. However, she carefully guarded her secret past and did not share with him that she once had a family. The villagers in this new village admired Wanja's elegance and grace, and aware of the truth hidden behind her beautiful smile. She lived a life of comfort and wealth, and she bought new clothes and bags she wanted, forgetting the state she had left her husband Githinji and daughter in. In fact, she forgot that they ever existed in her life. One day, Wanja's new husband, let's call him Kamau, so Kamau announced that a dear friend will be visiting and requested Wanja to prepare a grand feast. With excitement, Wanja began preparation, unaware that this friend was in fact her first husband. She tidied up the house and cooked with excitement, knowing that she would finally meet this dear friend that Kamau praised all the time. As Wanja and her new husband Kamau were waiting for the guest, they heard a knock on the door. Kamau went and opened the door, and with laughter and excitement, he welcomed his friend into the house. As Wanja looked at Kamau's new friend, she couldn't believe it. It was Wanja's first husband Githinji, and he was holding the hand of their daughter. Wanja's two worlds collided and she found herself trapped in a web of lies. Nduta immediately started screaming and shouting, "Dad, please take me out of here. I don't want to see Mama. She left us. She left you." Kamau was very confused as she watched the young girl pointing at his new wife Wanja, and as he saw Wanja's face full of guilt, Kamau turned to Githinji and said, "This is my wife. The one I always spoke to you about, my new wife, Wanja." Githinji then looked at him and said, "And she is my wife, the one I always spoke to you about, the one who left me and my daughter when I fell ill, the one I thought died because she never said goodbye and we looked for her without a trace." Oh, this man, full of anger and confusion, both turned and looked at Wanja. Immediately, Wanja started crying, stating how sorry she was and explaining that she ran because she feared poverty and because of her greed for money. Githinji couldn't believe this. He looked at Wanja and said in an angry voice, "I can't believe you actually did this to me, to your daughter. All I ever did was to love you and care for you and treat you well, and you couldn't just take care of me when I was sick or even have the guts to say goodbye. You're a very selfish woman and with no heart at all. What kind of woman leaves her child? You're so heartless." Wanja, who was filled with guilt, cried and tried to beg Githinji to forgive her, but he was very bitter. Wanja's daughter, on the other hand, Nduta, was also angry and she did not want to see her. In short, her world had fallen apart. Githinji and Nduta did not even stay to eat the food Wanja had made. They left with a warning that Wanja should never step a foot at their home. Our guy Kamau, on the other hand, was still in shock that her new wife was someone else's wife. That night, Kamau left the bed all to Wanja and he slept on the sofa. He couldn't bear to see her face all night long. The next morning, Kamau called Wanja for a discussion. He opened up and told Wanja that he was in great debt and financially struggling, and that he had called Githinji to come and look at the property and sell it to him. In addition, he explained that he had already sold all his farmlands and cattle to clear his debts, and that they had to relocate and live in a small house that they could afford. Wanja couldn't believe this. She had nowhere to escape from this poverty and suffering now that her first husband and daughter had already rejected her. After 1 week, Wanja and Kamau relocated to a small house in the outskirts of the village where she experienced what real poverty felt like. She regretted her choices of being too greedy for money and not getting in marriage for the right reasons, which is for love and not for wealth. So, what's the moral lesson? This story teaches us that we should not be too greedy for money and riches. This folktale also teaches us that true wealth lay not in material riches, but in the bonds of honesty, love, and human connection. Anyway guys, that was it for today's video, and I hope that you enjoyed it and learned something out of it. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Kwaheri.